Puss in Boots, a character originating from a fairy tale in the 16th century. The tale is basically Robin Hood if he were a cat. It involves the titular cat in the fancy footwear that steals from people but wishes well for his penniless master. A popular enough story for back then, and one that even holds up to this day. The story itself is so popular that it could even be considered a fairy tale. Being considered a fairy tale means that they can be exploited fairly in popular media. And you know what that means. That's right, Shrekploitation. Introduced in Shrek 2 and being voiced by Antonio Banderas, the character Puss in Boots went on to become an even more popular character in popular media. Banderas' performance as a titular feline fits his character so well. And my gosh, he may just well be the most well-written character in the Shrek universe from any fairy tale media.
Pray for mercy from Puss in Boots.
Where are the Puss's Love, Puss's Life shirts? I want to see those. From the second movie on, Puss became one of the main characters of the Shrek franchise, appearing in the next two movies and shorts alike. After the last Shrek movie, DreamWorks confirmed that a spin-off movie was in the works. And in 2011, the Puss in Boots movie was released. It was an amazing turning point for the franchise. After the last two Shrek movies offered two stories that didn't exactly meet the par of the first two, DreamWorks wanted to revamp the setting of the storybook-telling world and make a new mind of background for its character. A sort of Western setting, if you will. It involved not only Puss himself, but Jack and Jill, a bit of Jack and the Beanstalk, and Humpty Dumpty as a central antagonist. This movie became so popular that a sequel has been in the works ever since. The pandemic spelled disaster for the production, however, but in 2022, the trailer was finally released. And finally, on December 2022, the movie itself was released. Now, I haven't been to theaters since 2020, but I did wind up seeing it. I watched the whole thing on a website called Bilibili, and I just have one thing to say about it. This movie is amazing! Puss in Boots: The Last Wish is the perfect film for the end of 2022. It's got a great story, awesome characters, beautiful animation, and a whole lot of heart. By the way, there will be some spoilers in this review, but not too many. The story is that Puss in Boots is down to his last life, and is settling down into retirement. He soon finds out about a legendary wishing star that can grant him any wish, and sets off to find it and wish for all 9 lives of his to be returned. On his journey, he reunites with his old flame Kitty Softpaws, who joins him on the quest. They also come into conflict with Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and Big Jack Horner. But those aren't the only obstacles that Puss will have to face. First off, I gotta say how well balanced the animation is. In the past, I said to myself how tired I was of 3D animation, especially that of Disney. Like a lot of people, maybe even yourself, I spend a lot of my time looking at the past instead of the present because most movies and shows of the present age don't really sit well with me. The current programming on my childhood channels Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network aren't nearly as good as the shows that I've grown up with. And a phrase I've come to terms with regarding Disney's current cinematic lineup: if you've seen one, you've seen them all. Moana, Zootopia, Encanto, yeah, I said it, and Strange World. They're all the same. But with this movie, I have to eat my words. You know, I'm starting to compare this film to past DreamWorks works. And the style they went for is the kind you should see for a 2D animated fairy tale movie. With the third and fourth Shrek movies, they seem to lose the real-life aesthetic that the first movie used. These styles, they're fine, but you can take one look at them and forget that this is based on the iconic fairy tales of old. But Puss in Boots 2 really blows that out of the water. The stunning visuals remind you that you are in a fantasy setting. The designs of the characters are well done, but my favorite one for the new characters would have to be on the giant in the beginning. In previous fairy tale movies, all giants are portrayed as human-like in appearance. To me, that doesn't really seem like much of a threat. Here, the giant looks like a powerful force of nature from Ferngully that could take Hexus head-on. Gosh, I would really love to have seen that in Ferngully. I also got to talk about the movement of the character as well. The way that they move when they fight or run in this movie is reminiscent of the characters from Into the Spider-Verse. It feels like it takes place in an illustration rather than a 3D movie, like something you'd see in a comic book or graphic novel. That's why my favorite design is the giant. It takes full advantage of the Spider-Verse style in everything that it does. The movie also bases itself on the style of the bad guys as well. When you see smoke or dust, it looks like 2D instead of the looks of their surroundings. That's insane. Next, let me talk about the characters introduced here. First off, this movie does a pretty interesting take on the story of Goldilocks. It makes clear that she was adopted by the three bears, but doesn't fully see them as a family. It paints them in a way that, despite them being antagonists, they still come off as heartwarming and kind of sympathetic. It's also good to see their dynamic as they go about their crimes. They act like a growing family would act, and that's what makes them so unique. But then there's the movie's main antagonist. You know, based on the movie's marketing, you'd think it would be someone else. Maybe it would be Goldilocks, maybe it would be one of the bears. Maybe it would be Kitty Softpaws as a generic twist villain like Disney's been pulling. Nope. It's Jack Horner. Actually, he goes by Big Jack Horner in this flick. Out of all the villains in this, Big Jack Horner has to be the weakest. Not to say he's a bad villain, but unlike any of the other baddies in this, he hardly has any quirks about him. He's just a mortal person out for greed and power. He wants to get his hands on the wishing star to become the master of all magic in the fairy tale world. Again, not a bad villain, far from it, but that's not exactly a good motivation compared to the others. He seems a bit like Rourke from Atlantis, The Lost Empire. He doesn't have that much of a motivation. He's only out for greed, but that doesn't necessarily make him a generic doomsday villain. He's not out to destroy all life because he sees it as inferior, but he wants to control magic because he was overshadowed by the biggest tale told in 2022. Seriously, this has to be the second best Pinocchio movie after Del Toro's. I'm going to get to that next video. Perito is basically the comic relief to the movie. He's a therapy dog who takes up residence at the cat sanctuary disguised as a cat, which is where he meets Puss. Now, this character isn't exactly the worst. He can be annoying at times, but nowhere near as annoying as characters like Comfortable Doug. He's actually pretty supportive to him and Kitty at times, but a little oblivious to the things around him. I like the part where he unintentionally provides some therapy for the sort of dysfunctional relationship of Goldilocks and the bears. That's pretty wholesome in my opinion. And finally, there's the wolf. Oh, don't you be fooled. This isn't the wolf you've all come to know and love in folklore. Nope, not even close. This character is somebody quite different. Someone who fits the film's message of savoring your life really well. Ladies and gentlemen, say hello to death.
I don't mean it metaphorically or rhetorically or poetically or theoretically or in any other fancy way. I'm death, straight up.
Death is, without a doubt, the best character introduced in the movie. To the design, to his voice acting, to his whole presence in general. Whenever he's on screen, you're shown a mysterious black figure that could at any minute steal your soul. And that's exactly what he's out for. Puss in Boots laughed in the face of death, and that phrase is put into major perspective here. Death is mad that Puss in Boots shrugged off the possibility of losing his lives and is out to get him. It's not just the design that makes his character so great, but every scene that he's in makes you wonder who he is every time you see him. That tune he whistles is also really intimidating. Just listen.
Good Lord.
It adds to the overall mystery of this character before he's even established. He has 2 sickles he uses as weapons, and he doesn't take flack from anyone. Oh, and oh yeah, that's right. Did I mention that this movie has a body count? Yep. This movie means business with its rating. For once, it earns a PG rating. In today's usual menagerie of animated movies by either Disney or Pixar, a PG would often mean mild thematic elements or rude humor. Back in the 80s or 90s, a PG in an animated movie would mean that parents should definitely be around when their kids watch it. Mice stabbing each other in the back, dinosaurs tearing each other apart, throwing babies to crocodiles. Are all these things you'd show your kids? And this movie pretty much has the same effect. Mainly from Big Jack Horner. Yeah, even though I did beat down on Jack Horner earlier, I gotta give him credit. He does kill more people than Death does. Not saying he's better than him, just saying. He allows his henchmen to get eaten alive by plants, lets them fall off a cliff and turn into bad guys effects, and even lets one of them get disintegrated at the end.
Good Lord.
Kudos to you, Horner. You sure know how to be both mediocre and murderously intimidating at the same time. Oh. Overall, this movie was absolutely phenomenal. One of the best from DreamWorks without a doubt. I wouldn't be surprised if it beats Disney at the Oscars for once. Pulling a Secret of NIMH scenario, if you will. 9.5 out of 10. And I don't mean that theoretically, rhetorically, or poetically. I mean that straight up. That's it for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time.